There have been many great men and women that have graced this earth and have impacted us in countless of ways. Men and women who have impacted and shaped society and different aspects of society, whether it be in entertainment, such as, like, let's say Michael Jackson and Elvis Presley, or in ministry such as A.A. Allen, and also people who have impacted the area of business and innovation, in such as, let's say, Steve Jobs. And when looking at their lives, it's so important that we, yes, appreciate and celebrate what they did well. For some of these amazing great men and women, they started well and they ended well. However, unfortunately for others, they didn't have the greatest end. Obviously, with these great men and women, what, they're still human, and as humans do, some made mistakes, and some of these mistakes had very devastating consequences. And when reflecting on their lives, regardless of whatever time they lived in, I have seen that there have been common things in their lives that actually contributed to their downfall. And I just want to share this video, just sharing these things in hopes that we can learn from where they went wrong so we don't make the mistakes that they made and so we can do better. So, when it comes to what destroys great men and women, the first thing I would say is isolation. Obviously, when you are someone who has great influence, great power, and even money, you will find that there are loads of people that will come around you. There are people who will try to be around you, and some people have good intentions, but a lot of the times many don't, or they have selfish ambition. And with that, there obviously is a temptation to withdraw and isolate from people. However, in isolation, your issues, whether it be addictions, trauma, character issues, actually are harder to heal from and navigate. Your issues actually thrive and are actually harder to overcome in isolation. And isolation actually doesn't protect your peace, but rather it dysregulates your nervous system. It actually brings you into a place of emotional and mental imbalance. And this is because we as human beings, we are actually created for human connection, we are created for interaction. And healthy community is necessary for one's emotional and mental development and well-being. The sense of belonging and the sense of community is necessary for us to be able to live and thrive as healthy human beings, regardless of whether we are someone living a normal life or whether you're someone of great influence. Regardless, you're still a human being. You are created for human connection and community, an ongoing community. It's necessary. And with these great men and women who didn't do well as a result of isolation, we see when we look at their lives, there were certain things that they struggled with that was enhanced or harder to navigate or overcome. And isolation is a major part of this because healing is actually can be found and dealt with in community. And I just wanted to say, isolation does not protect your peace. Having correct boundaries and having healthy boundaries is what will protect your peace. And so it's so important that we learn from this and that we don't isolate ourselves. However, instead, we ensure that we have healthy and correct boundaries. And when you see that someone comes around you that doesn't necessarily have the right motives, that you don't allow that experience to cause you to just like cut out everybody from your life. The second thing that I found that destroys great men and women is a lack of accountability, refusing to be held accountable, not having people who can check you, correct you, and challenge you. And I would say that this, out of all the things that I've seen that is common amongst people that have been walking in greatness that fell and have had horrible ends or made great mistakes, this is the main thing that contributed to their falling, a lack of accountability, and kind of is connected to all the other things that will be mentioned. Having great influence, having great power and mass wealth does not erase your character issues, it does not erase your flaws, but rather it actually amplifies it. Whatever issue that you have, whatever character flaw or issue that you have, is amplified with influence, is amplified with power, is amplified with wealth. And so this means that The more influence that you have as a person, the more at risk you are of crashing and burning if you have unresolved issues in you. And the truth is, regardless of how great you may be, regardless of whatever impact you're having in society, you haven't arrived. We're all lifelong learners and we all have blind spots. These great men and women who have graced this earth were still human and so had blind spots. And this is why accountability is so important. Having accountability means that you have people who can see things that you can't and can warn you about certain, traps that you could walk into or certain things that you're doing that isn't necessarily right. And when you avoid accountability, when you avoid honest correction, and only choose to surround yourself with yes men, it allows for pride to go unchecked. It allows for toxic and problematic behaviors and patterns to go unchallenged. And it allows for you to continue in blind spots that could eventually lead to your destruction. And we've seen that with these great men and women, that a lot of them, unfortunately, because of the money or the influence they had, surrounding themselves with yes men. And these people obviously allowed for these great men and women to, in the cases where there were problematic behaviors or problematic ways of thinking or just blind spots, allowed for them to continue in these ways or with these habits that eventually led to their destruction. And in some cases, unfortunately, losing their lives. Once again, it's so important that you have the right people around you. It's so important that you are accountable, that you have accountability. And this also links to the first point about, not being in isolation. It's so important that you have the right people around you. People who genuinely care about you, people who can check you and challenge you, and people who can see things that you can't and are okay with calling it out, because they will be able to help expose certain patterns, ideas, habits that you may have that could eventually lead to destruction. And hopefully, as they call these things out, you make the necessary changes so you don't fall into those traps as a result of those problematic behaviors. The final thing that I wanted to mention, the third thing that destroyed great men and great women, is a failure to take care of their health, neglecting their physical bodies and neglecting their health. Great people obviously were great because they put in the work. To see the results, you need to put in the work. However, a lot of them sacrificed their health and pushed themselves to unhealthy extremes and ignored warning signs that their body may have been trying to give them. Regardless of how great you may be, regardless of whatever impact that you may be having in society, no one is immortal. You are still a human. And your body will eventually give in and respond to whatever you may be choosing to ignore or whatever you are refusing to deal with. So, for example, someone working themselves to the point of burnout, the body will eventually give into that and crash. Someone who is refusing to get treatment for something that they need treatment from will unfortunately succumb to whatever ailment they have. And we see with a lot of gifted men and women, burnout, chronic stress, exhaustion, mental health issues, depression, and untreated health issues actually cut short their lives and cut short their legacy. And so it's so important that we learn from this and remember to take care of our bodies. We only have one body, and we need to ensure that we take care of our health so we are able to have longevity in whatever we are building or doing. And so those are the three things that have destroyed great men and women. And obviously, once again, just to round this video up, when looking at the lives of these men and women that have graced this earth, these great people, it's so important that we, yes, obviously celebrate their achievements, but in celebrating their achievements, it's so important that we actually look at where they may have made mistakes or where they went wrong so we can learn from these things and do better. So yeah, I hope this video was insightful and you enjoyed this video. Like this video, share it and subscribe. And until the next one.